Mhm.
Ayun.
Yeah, okay. I think
We're
we are
live. Yeah.
good. Hold up. There we go. I'm not using
There.
any background.
Nice.
All right, so we're live. We're good.
Good afternoon, guys. Are we greeting our
Yeah.
audience first?
Yeah. Welcome to another episode of Sunday Chican, where a pilot, a professor, or a geographer, and a journalist basically talks about some of the hottest, most socially relevant topics of today. My name is Art. I'm the pilot.
I'm Hazel. Hello.
And I'm Zandro. Hello, good
Yeah.
afternoon.
Good afternoon. Well, good afternoon in Manila and good morning in San Francisco.
Ano oras
Yeah.
dyan, Art?
Alas 12.
Wow.
Yeah. So, kamusta naman, guys? How was the week? How was the week for you guys?
It's the same,
Ah.
basically.
Anything new?
Parang wala masyado, pero to prepare
Yeah.
for this, guro, my week was filled with watching
The
these
shows.
shows, yeah,
Yeah.
that
Okay.
we're going to talk about this week.
Cool. Well, today, again, we're as we tweeted and posted earlier, we are going to talk about um, non-heterosexual relationships and their portrayal in media and certain shows. Two of which would be what was the title of that? The Thai boy love series.
Together the
Together.
Together,
series.
and the other one would be Juliantina, which by itself is actually a spin-off of another um, telenovela, diba? If I got
Mm-hmm.
that correctly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's start off with
I would start.
Juliantina, Hazel.
All right. I found out about Juliantina last week lang.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't really a spin-off, pero there were 87 episodes released of this Mexican telenovela called Amar a Muerte,
Amar
or
Amarte.
Love to Death, or something like that.
Oh,
And
okay.
it was yung interaction between Juliana and Valentina. Uh, Hindi siya yung main topic. It wasn't the main topic of the whole telenovela. But since there were a lot of people who responded positively to that pairing between two women, so the network decided to release yung
Oh.
cut na puro sila lang.
Oh.
So
I see.
it's still part of that telenovela, pero because of the clamor in social media,
Mm-hmm.
and I think
Mm-hmm.
it's one of the things that we're going to discuss today, because of that clamor and because of the fans and coming up with that hashtag Juliantina, uh, the network supported that and decided to release 19 episodes, so basically 10 hours of content
Mm-hmm.
that's based from the original, but also just includes Juliana and Valentina's
I
story.
Okay.
see.
And also because of this clamor, there's going to be a movie. Apparently, the
Oh.
network really
Wow.
listened to them. So that's going to be the spin-off, and it was planned to be released this year. Pero because of everything that's been happening, everything has been put on hold. Pero siguro it's very good to mention the power really of social media
Right.
and how these
Mm-hmm.
things can take off. If we were if we had this kinds of shows, okay, prior to the advent of social media, it wouldn't have this reach. And also
Yes.
yung I guess the development of the technologies that are available now, such as yung paglalagay ng subtitles. So that I can watch that show, I had to download this browser extension
Yeah.
to get subtitles. So yung mga ganon. So without these things happening, only Spanish-speaking people would get access to that. But because of social media and the global reach of social media and these technologies, it was possible to make this into a global phenomenon. So there are a lot of countries who have Juliantina fans. There is Juliantina PH, there's Juliantina Holland.
Wow. So the fans are here na rin.
Yes.
Wow.
So it's kind of a global phenomenon right now that's happening with Juliantina. In other words.
Yes. And I guess for Together the series, I guess for all of these for these shows that we're going to talk about, and even Rich Man's Daughter was huge in Taiwan. And they also had a hashtag for it, Jatea, from the characters of Glyza de Castro and who's this girl, Rian Ramos, Jatea, Jade, and Althea, and also Rastro for Ramos and De Castro. So
Ramos and De Castro.
Yeah, yung mga ganong pag-merge, and also Sarawat Tin is also a hashtag.
Yes.
So it's very
Bright
interesting.
Win.
Yeah, Bright Win also. Yung mga ganyan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you did mention yung Together earlier. What's that all about naman?
Well, yung Together naman kasi, actually, na-discover ko lang siya through a friend who was, naghanap kasi ako na series na mapapanood when the community lockdown was, the enhanced community quarantine was enforced. Naghahanap ako ng something light na away from politics, which I have been covering. So, hanap ako, tapos sabi niya, try mo tong Together the series. Initially, parang ganda nung idea, maganda yung storyline. But sige, before we talk about the representation doon sa mga series na pinag-uusapan natin, let's start with Hazel. What do you think about yung Juliantina na yan?
What do I think? I really liked it because it wasn't sexualized at all.
Okay.
In most representations of lesbians, it's either very tragic, diba? There are a lot of non-heterosexual relationships between women that end in a tragic note, na parang confusion lang siya or whatever, or it is overly sexualized. As I don't know if you've seen Blue is the Warmest Color, so they had a 10-minute extended love scene, which was, I believe it was unnecessary really to focus on just one aspect of a relationship between two women. Pero and also there were a lot of issues about consent, etc. Wag na nating puntahan yung ganon kasi pero nangyayari yung mga ganon. So what I like about Juliantina is that they basically started out as friends. And
so we're talking about the main characters.
Juliana and Valentina. So Juliana Valdez is a poor migrant from the US to Mexico because she had a lot of trouble with her family, and they had to run away from narcos, mga drug
yung cartel.
Yung cartel. So she went to Mexico with her mother, and Valentina Carvajal is the total opposite. She is an heiress to a media conglomerate, so she's very rich and she's very sheltered, siguro. So there was she had a lot of trouble with her what's family.
That? I'm watching. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. I'm looking at the
sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Like familiar yung boss.
I'm looking at the comments.
yeah.
Sorry. Oops, sorry.
Sabi ko. So they were very different, but they met, and it was very organic kasi the way that they met, and it started out really as a beautiful friendship of two people wanting to be there for each other. Walang mali siya at all. It wasn't sexualized at all. And at that point in time, and makikita mo kasi lalo na ako, I identified with it because as a lesbian woman myself, identified with those feelings of confusion. Why am I liking this person more than I probably should have? Why am I feeling all of these feelings for this particular person? Babae siya, babae rin ako. So, and also Valentina has a boyfriend, has a long-term boyfriend. So that kind of complicates things. So the confusion was there, but also the chemistry was also there. And siguro, I would like to mention that this, the first kissing scene that they did, it was the very first kissing scene that was shown on primetime TV in Mexico between two women. So it was already.
It was very powerful.
Yeah, it was very powerful in that sense. And
So
the
this is
way
the
that,
first. This is the first. Tama, did I hear it right? This is the first time.
yeah, the first time
Wow.
that it was published on primetime. And I also looked at some of the interviews that they did, and they said that when they kind of shot that kissing scene, if you're going to watch that scene, there was the scene in the pool. It was done in such a way, it was directed in such a way that you can't really see the kiss. Parang every time their lips would meet, the camera would like pan to the
Would
back
pan
of the
away.
head. Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah.
may ganon. Pero there is that kiss pa rin. But they said that it was also
Accidental
their
lang
way.
siya talaga. The series was not really about them.
No, it
Characters
wasn't.
lang sila.
It wasn't about them. So the whole
Wow.
series is about the transmigration of souls. So basically, Juliana and Valentina's dad died, and the soul of Juliana's dad went to another person, and the soul of Valentina's dad went to the body of Juliana's dad. So it was like they were destined to meet. So yung mga ganon.
Wow.
So there were a lot of ang tawag dito? There were a lot of very interesting topics within that show. I haven't
original
seen.
series.
I haven't seen the entire
Mara Mara.
series because it's very hard to access, no? Kasi most videos are blocked here in the country. So
Yeah.
hindi na ako nag-VPN and all of that.
Yeah,
Pero,
baka ilalabas siya sa telenovela channel. Or-
but
Yeah.
also going back down dun sa first kiss, no, sabi rin nila that when they shot it and they decided to use it, it was a litmus test of how people would react. So they wanted to see muna how people would react, and then if okay ang reception, they would probably go have yung ibang kissing scenes that are planned. But it was really a beautiful story, and the chemistry is really great. The acting was magnificent. So lahat ng yun, they all came together in this pairing. That's why it also exploded in social media.
And of course, why it became like a global thing was it wasn't planned by the network or anything. Parang people kind of really just latched onto it, and the idea of it, right?
Yeah, and also it's because of people craving for non-heterosexual representation. So
Right.
seeing non-heterosexual characters on television, I think we already kind of talked about this last week, no? That there during our time there was a lack of this, seeing a man fall in love with another man in media, but now it's all around, and you can actually access them through the internet. And also the value of YouTube, of the internet, as a way to kind of navigate censorship. So yung Rich Man's Daughter, I can't remember how many episodes there were, but there wasn't a kiss at all doon sa relationship between Jade and Althea, but they published it in YouTube. Kasi yung official na last episode, or the finale of The Rich Man's Daughter, just when they're about to kiss, pan out yung camera, then wide shot of the Pride celebration. But you can actually see the actual kiss, or that extended scene in YouTube.
Yeah,
so yung mga ganon, yeah.
So that one naman is another series. Saan naman siya? The Rich Man's Daughter?
Rich Man's Daughter was done here in the Philippines.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So it's basically this and actually
Medyo wala ako sa balita, diba?
when I watched it, I found a lot of parallelisms between The Rich Man's Daughter and Amara Muerte. And for me, that's very interesting because of we have kind of similarities when it comes to culture, okay? Roman Catholicism and the value of family. So if you look at if you look at these two series, you would see that the family is central, and decisions that these two women made were actually focused on how their families would react and uh, how their friends would react. And that is what's starkly different between the BL series, because you don't see really how the families would kind of come into play in the decisions to get into a relationship with another boy, but rather the focus is on the individual and the individuals experiencing them. Okay, so Ricky Lee mentioned this in an interview in 2014. He said that most of our telenovelas are actually focused on the family. So family-centric
Very
talaga ang
family.
karamihan
Correct.
ng ating shows. And you can see that in, for example, My Husband's Lover was also another series about non-heterosexual
Right.
relationships, but still the family aspect is central as well. Okay, so they ended up together, pero yung representation din niyan was siguro kind of damaging kasi non-heterosexual relationships can be seen as a threat to, that concept of that ideal,
Immoral,
the
di ba?
ideal
Correct.
family. Okay, so yung mga ganon.
I mean, for the
Which
longest
is
time
ano,
naman kasi, di ba?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Zandro.
which is ironical kasi yung side naman ng boy love series in Southeast Asia or in East Asia, ang origin niya is not really LGBT, but it's ironically kasi I was reading about yung phenomenon ng boy love series. Kasi apparently hindi lang siya sa Thailand, hindi lang siya sa China, hindi lang siya sa Taiwan, hindi lang siya, kumbaga maraming countries in Southeast Asia and in East Asia and yun nga, Japan nga, that may industry ng boy love series na I was reading about it na ang view pala dun sa characters are not LGBT, but rather it was a personification of yung mga repressed feelings ng kababaihan because sa kultura ng mga nabanggit kong lugar, repressed yung pagiging dominant o yung yung choices ng babae when it comes to relationships. So, nakakatawa isipin na in this day and age pala, yung idea ng equality among women, hindi pala din siya papalapantay when it comes to other Asian culture. Like, it's South Korea nga, di ba? Ngayon na lang din sila nagkakaroon ng very independent-minded characters sa mga teleseries nila, di ba? Na doon pala nanggagaling yung boy love series because ang tingin ng mga babae who predominantly watch these series, in fact, parang nasa 83 to 85% ng mga nanonood nitong mga boy love series in Thailand and in other countries, mga babae. Tapos, ang tingin nila,
Interesting.
ang weird, hindi siya weird parang very interesting na ganun yung setup because doon sila na-empower, sa ganung paraan sila na-empower.
I wonder what's
Also,
the psychology behind that?
repressed kasi ang explanation doon sa mga nabasa kong research about it. Or doon sila na-empower because they can relate. Ang tingin nila, isa sila doon sa mga characters sa boy love series.
Okay.
Diba? Very interesting. Tapos, so I was like reading about it. Tapos, na-realize ko nga while watching together kasi medyo predatory nga. For those who have watched it, I've shown you the link where to watch it. Yung sa GMM TV ng Thailand. It's amazing na na hindi siya talaga LGBT. Tapos parang konti lang yung mga lalaking nanonood. And yung mismong series is about actually women, women empowerment. So nagre-research ako. It turns out, ang daming parallelism din pala ng Thai culture sa Filipino culture.
I would think
You
so.
look at it.
We look the same, for one.
We're rice eaters.
We're rice eaters. Yeah.
And it's interesting also that you mentioned that this was for women. Kasi when I watched the first episode, parang ang negative ng dating sa akin. The way it started, I really didn't like it. Kasi parang it showed that time was parang got tired of women because women are shallow bitches. Diba? Na parang it started with scenes of him and another woman in a restaurant.
Nakikipag-date, diba?
Nakikipag-date.
Like several women.
Niya, I've been dating a lot of women, but I haven't found the one because the women were flawed. So, yung gano, representations are important, but also it can play into certain stereotypes that we want to veer away from. Like that character of Green. So,
napaka-predatory, di ba?
Yeah, predatory. Yeah. So, effeminate men are seen as, predatory or for comic relief or comic value. Yung mga ganong stereotypes are still present. And also, take a look at the protagonists. Diba? If of all the boys love series that I've seen, they're very parang masculine, guapo, and physically attractive. So going back siguro, why is it boys love, no? Not gay series, it's not gay
actually,
love.
I was gonna bring that up. Like,
yes.
Why is it named boy love instead of
because it's value free.
Yeah.
It's value free. When you use boys love, it doesn't come hindi siya kasing it's not as loaded as gay love kasi
it's
when
not
you
as heavy.
it's not as heavy. When you see gay something, there would be marami na agad negative connotations dyan. And I think also the use of boys love is appropriate because in these series you don't really talk about issues that we talked about in the last conversation. Diba? It's seen as everyone is supportive and it's just a good vibes kind of thing. So yung mga ganong issues that sabi nga ng ibang tao, let people enjoy their lalo na with the pandemic, that craving for something positive, I guess also aided in that explosion of boys love kasi kinikilig ka eh. It's a happy series, it's a light series. We don't talk about discrimination or deaths within the LGBT community because of discrimination. So all of these things, may isa pala magandang word na was written by a journalist for Tribune, I think, Michael Lim. He called it the fandemic. Because of the pandemic, all of these fandoms suddenly had this immense amount of time to spend on watching these series that they like. So, ang witty niya doon, the fandemic. But yeah.
And yun nga, and adding to what you've noticed. So, curious ako, bakit siya ganun yung pagkakagawa nitong Together? So, it turns out na yun nga, yung parallelism ng Thailand and then Philippines is that sa kanila, yung pagiging LGBT is also tolerated. Pero they're not accepted. Hindi pa rin sila ganun ka-accepting. Despite the irony that Bangkok is known to have ladyboys, di ba? Hindi sila ganun ka-accepting. With their friends, kaya nila tanggapin, office mates, pero kapag yung LGBT, kamag-anak na nila, nakita mo na nagbabago. I was watching a lot of social experiments in Thailand to really find out kung ano yung stand nila on LGBT issues. It turns out na yun nga, back in the olden ages, yung early kingdoms nila had laws against LGBT, and they can also die if you're found out to be LGBT. And then
Some of these laws are still existing
yes,
in some countries. Yeah.
Yeah. Also point out ko lang the ladyboy term.
Sorry.
Of
Oh
course,
my gosh.
no, it's fine. In
You
this
have to
context,
educate
but
me.
It's the colloquial term kasi.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's it's a porn term. It's a term used
Oh.
in the kind of the
Yeah,
porn
with
industry, the sex
shemale.
industry, to basically sexualize trans women in a way that's appealing
Men.
to mostly Westerners, I would think.
Okay.
So I would say it's not a term that's really accepted in a more academic way, in that shouldn't be, at least. But that's how a lot of people, like especially dito, no, that's how they refer to trans girls there. And we have to move into a space where that's kind of no longer used, I would say. So but it's fine, it's fine.
So it's trans women.
Just,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
From now on,
um,
I'll use trans women.
that's fine,
So
that's all
despite
good.
that, pareho lang din tapos hindi rin sila ganun pa-accepting. But here's the good news. Nag-evolve na yung storyline nila sa Thailand. In fact, I was able to see another series, yung Three Will Be Free, which talks about a polyamorous relationship. And ito naman, they talk about another member of the LGBT community na sobrang hindi siya napapag-usapan, yung mga bisexuals. And doon sa series, there's a trans woman character played by Jenny Panahan, who is also a transgender woman, a trans woman. So
she
parang,
is
wow.
trans in IRL, in real life.
Yes.
Okay. That's
But
good.
still, syempre, yung roles pa rin niya before that role as an assassin, as a trans woman assassin, sa Tree Will Be Free. Ang galing nga kasi action siya. Tapos, at kinuwento rin yung struggle niya as a trans woman because pinag-uusapan doon, boyfriend niya is a gangster.
Okay.
Na nag-iipon sila for his gender reassignment.
Okay.
Kaso, napatay yung boyfriend niya. So, parang nagdadalawang isip pa siya kung magkakaroon pa ba ako ng gender reassignment or I'm happy with who I am now kasi nawala na yung boyfriend ko. Parang may gano'n. Meron siyang ganong...
I see.
Meron
Okay.
siyang ganong storyline.
Yeah.
And aside from that, parang nagbabago na yung roles because apparently before Together the series, wala talagang gay roles sa any boy love series. Because yun nga, it doesn't really cater to the LGBT.
How is that? There's no... You mean like the actors themselves aren't gay, or what do you mean?
Apparently, ito nga yung ironical din. A few days ago, one of the actors sa Sotus the series na sobrang popular, na meron siyang part 2 na series, and then it's also on Netflix. It turns out one of the characters was homophobic and did rape jokes while going live a few days ago. So nagkaroon ng uproar and he was forced to apologize. So nag-apologize naman na siya. But still, 'di ba, parang it turns out na parang yung may boy love series ka tapos biglang homophobic ka pala.
Right.
Parang
right.
How does that...
But how do you reconcile that?
How does that...
Yeah.
How does that happen?
How does that
diba?
work?
So,
that's another issue also kasi they keep casting straight people for roles.
Correct.
And si Juan Miguel Severo was actually writing a BL. No, he's also a fan of BL. If you look at his tweets, fan din talaga siya.
Mhm.
And initially he wanted to cast only um, members of the LGBTQ plus to star in his series. Pero it became siguro it became very hard kasi una, if you are going to that
Yun nga yung
casting
question
call,
ko
then
Hazel eh.
you have to come out as LGBTQ plus, and some people might not be ready for that. So he found na ang onti lang actually nung mga nakuhang I don't know talents. So there's this and also yung fear ng actor to be typecast
Yeah.
into just
Into certain
playing
roles.
gay roles or
Right.
playing yung mga ganon.
Right.
So there
And I've seen that happen. I've seen that
Yeah.
happen like with actors sa Pilipinas where they do one role, for example, for a certain TV show, and then it kind of, the next roles would be kind of
Similar.
similar to that. Martin Del Rosario comes into mind for one. Like he's done a lot of those roles, and some of them like roles in a row, diba?
Yeah.
Just because he was very effective in portraying like a gay man in one. So that kind of, I guess, put him in that, typecast him into that certain role for a period. And I can see how it would be very difficult for these actors to get out of that if they want to do something else.
Yun nga yung tanong ko eh. Is it really important for a gay character to get a gay artista, a gay celebrity to portray the role? When there's artistic freedom, or why don't we just open up to, or bakit hindi na lang siya kasi din open to like all genders? Is it really important for someone playing the role to be also gay or to be also lesbian to play the role? What do you think, guys?
I don't think it should be necessary, no?
Mhm.
Kasi that's exactly what we are pushing for, equality, that your gender identity and your sexual orientation shouldn't be the basis for you getting or not getting
Getting the
certain
role.
things. So yung mga ganon. But also, siguro going back to your example of that person turning out to be homophobic, well, he played a gay role. Siguro yung understanding kasi of how people are ayan, na-distract na ako.
Sorry.
Ano nga yun?
I keep on playing.
I forgot what I was,
the
yung
homophobic,
attention span ko eh.
Yeah.
And
the
that's why
homophobic actor in real life. Yeah.
That's why there were a lot of and there were a lot of shows also in the US na call out kasi there were certain instances wherein a woman or a straight man was asked to play a role of a trans woman. Yung mga ganon. When there are trans woman actresses who can do that job. So I guess it becomes problematic in that sense if there are, maybe possible kang pool of resources of other people who can actually play something that they've already experienced and also experienced. But this is not to say na it should be a requirement, no? Na only gay should be hired or only lesbian should be hired. Right. Because as I mentioned earlier, there are also challenges to doing that. Okay? Pero siguro yun din ang kinakrave, I guess, ng LGBTQ community. Siguro they feel more attached, or siguro they feel that genuine kind of connection if they know that this person for real is a gay man or a lesbian woman. Ganon.
Ako naman, I'd have to sort of kind of disagree with you a little bit, Hazel, in saying that it shouldn't matter. At least in this day and age where minorities are getting empowered, I think it matters a lot. that the roles given, that the gay roles, lesbian roles, trans roles are given to people who are actually uh, gays, lesbians, and trans in real life.
Mhm.
Just because, aside from the community having that affiliation and knowing that, when what you were saying, na parang they would feel better represented,
Yeah.
it's more about, um in a way, what you said, then there's a pool of people who are actually those roles that should be given that
Yeah.
opportunity, diba?
Mhm.
Aside from that, the connection really needs to be there, not just for the LGBT community, but for everyone else. Knowing that at the end of the day, for example, for trans women who are playing roles for trans women on TV or in film, that at the end of the day, after the film is over, and someone who is not uh, LGBT, not queer,
Mhm.
watching that, knowing once the cameras are off, she's still a woman.
Yeah.
That's still a trans woman playing that role. Um, and I've always been vocal about this, especially when they cast like a straight cis guy
Yes.
to play trans women roles.
Yes.
The disconnect will be there, for the viewer. Um, I remember Ken Chan playing a role on one of the telenovelas, right? Na at the end of it all, tapos may mga interviews outside, and then they're showing this dude, di ba? So, parang ang nangyayari for the viewers, hindi. So that's still a guy in drag,
Yeah.
di ba? That's still a guy putting on a dress, pretending she's a woman. Nandun, ma-reinforce yung stereotype. And I think it's the same thing for lesbians, or for gay men, 'di ba? Na at the end of watching a series or a film, and then they'd be doing this interview and showing that no, I'm actually straight, ganyan, and everything. Like the people watching it would see the disconnect and say,
Yeah.
so being gay is ano pala, it's
Is a
performative.
role
It's a role.
play.
It's a
Yeah.
role that you do.
Yes, oo
You
nga
can
'no,
always turn it off.
dangerous 'yun 'no?
Yeah, that's
Yes.
very dangerous right now. In theory, yes, like roles should be open to everyone, and that's the whole point. But in this day and age, LGBT actresses should be given the opportunity to portray themselves. I mean, very limited na nga yung roles na pwede nilang kunin, na pwede
Mhm.
nilang trabahuin, tapos ibibigay pa sa someone who doesn't really connect with the role.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Like I don't know if you've seen Dallas Buyers Club, wherein Jared Leto played a trans woman and he won an award about it, but he kept joking about cross dressing, but not really sensitive of the fact that this is the reality for a lot of people.
Correct.
And in his Golden Globes acceptance speech, sinabi pa niya, the character is a beautiful creature. Diba? Parang pag tinawag pa siyang creature, hindi man lang beautiful human being.
Right,
Yung
right.
mga ganon. So he got a lot of flack for it. And also, siguro banggitin ko lang kasi bigla nag-flash sa utak ko yung Ghost in the Shell.
Ghost in the
Diba?
Shell. Right.
Yeah, wherein Scarlett Johansson was tapped
Portraying an Asian
to
woman.
yeah, portraying a Japanese woman. So yung mga ganito, there, like you said earlier, there is really this pool of people who can do it and who can do it genuinely because it is their person. It is who they
It is
are.
them. It is who they
Yeah,
are.
it is
Correct.
them.
So we're not really against the idea of roles being interchanged and everything, diba? I mean, at the end of the day, there are those who would argue that um, gender is performative in a way. Uh,
It is.
it is, diba?
Yeah.
It is. In society, it's a role that you play. A role that you need to play comfortably. But it's just not as simple as that. In this day and age, definitely. It's not as simple as giving it to somebody because sikat siya. Because meron siyang full power pagdating sa takilya. Diba? There's a lot, there's so many movements happening right now that we need to take, to take note of what people are fighting for. And like it or not, TV and film, these are some of the most powerful media that will show how far we've gotten along in the fight for equality.
And yun nga, di ba? It turns out na yun nga, yung mga characters ng Boy Love series are not viewed as LGBT. Ano sila, di ba? Ano yun, di ba?
Boys love.
Boy,
Yun nga parang they want to get away from that that loaded
from the politics of it
kind
all.
of term, from the politics of it all. And it's good kanina, I think you mentioned something, Zandro, no, about Thailand. Same-sex marriage is still not recognized in Thailand. So siguro one thing to also, well, it's good that people have access to these kinds of representations of non-heterosexual relationships. But we also have to ask ourselves, does it translate really to change? And the changes that we want, does it translate to acceptance? Kasi hindi porket nag-increase ang visibility, though it is very important that you increase visibility and representation, but we see that these countries that you mentioned are still kind of closed off to that idea of what the LGBT community has been clamoring for, yung right to same-sex marriage, or yung mga rights to be protected from discrimination, yung mga ganon. So ano lang ba to? Parang it's just there to make us feel kilig, to make us feel happy. But I guess I'm more concerned about, more interested in what can be broader social impacts of these kinds of shows.
Well, I think ako ang tingin ko, at least we're taking baby steps, because yun nga yung babalikan ko yung sinabi ko kanina about how yung gay role sa Thailand series are slowly evolving, because yun nga at least may mga gay roles na, at least merong pinag-uusapan,
yes.
like kung ano si Green. And then later on, actually, what's fun
cute
about
kaya
it,
ni Green. Cute
after
ni Green,
some time, nare-realize nyo na may dahilan kung bakit ganon si Green. It was not really about being predatory.
Right.
It was part of the ploy so that Sarawat and Tyne will be together. Ayoko na spoilers, panoorin nyo. But it's part of the ploy. They're just taking us for a ride.
If you take out, go ahead.
Pero ang dangerous nga lang din nga doon kasi, baka kasi ang mag-stick sa audience, yung pagiging predatory and pagiging ganon ni Green sa series. So, but at least may redeeming factor naman towards the end. But, and yung journey rin ni Tyne on how he would eventually accept Sarawat is actually nakakakilig kapag pinanood niya later on. Too bad nga lang din, medyo hindi ganun kaganda na yung production, yung mga last few episodes nung together, because restricted na sa Thailand. Naabutan sila ng restriction sa pag-shoot nung series. But other than that, I think they also handled, kasi natatakot ako kasi nagulat ako na ang lakas niya, na parang kalalabas lang ng isang episode, 2 million views kagad on YouTube.
Yeah.
Right.
Tapos later that week, but before the weekends or before the new series, before the new episode would come out, nasa 6 million na kagad yung yung views niya. So sabi ko parang aren't they sending the wrong message? Tapos sabi ko, mukhang narinig ko pa back then na parang interested yung ABS kunin, tapos i-dub. Hindi kaya to maging issue sa mga...
Di ba kinuha na?
Kinuha na. Pero back then kasi, I knew about it na there were talks to get it. So kinakabahan ako. Sabi ko, Yeah,
Sa
yeah, it will be
Pinas.
shown in the Philippines. Hinihintay na lang yung exact date, but kinuha na siya ng ABS-CBN. So ipapalabas
Stig.
siya sa Kapamilya Channel and sa I Want nag-plug ako for the series. But kinakabahan ako kasi parang number one, baka mamaya kung ano yung isipin ng, we still live in a society full of moralists. So yun,
Hypocrites.
kinakaba ko doon.
Yeah.
And then pangalawa, baka mamaya dangerous yung character ni Green as the public may perceive it na parang, ay, ganito yung mga effeminate, ganito yung
Right,
mga,
correct.
di ba? So
Actually,
kinakabahan ako.
when I watched that was my first impression of
Yes.
Green's character. Na parang very predatory yung dating, di ba?
Di ba yung kung saan biglang dumadating tapos meron na siyang dalang drink for time or may dala ng food for time. Tapos
Very
even
stereotypical if you think about it, di ba? That's the way like effeminate gay men are seen. I guess not just atin, pero sa Thailand, and if they're portraying him like that, at least in the beginning.
And ang daming scenes doon sa first episode na parang, wow. Like drugging, the drink.
Yep.
Ang daming parang,
Tapos
di ba parang,
no.
Di ba parang, don't go there. Oh no, you went overboard. Di ba? Parang may ganun.
The way it's
Diba?
portrayed, parang ang happy pa ng dating nung scene. Parang, Is this,
yeah. But it is, di ba? Yung mga ganun, I guess, yung mga napansin kong, mga small things in that. And, for all its for all its faults, ang ganda rin talaga ng story ng Together the series, and it also helped, and I guess this goes for Amara Muerte and for Richmond's Daughter and for Together the series and all of the BL shows, is that they all look amazing. I guess yun din yung hatak niya kasi ang gwapo, ang gaganda nitong mga taong to, 'di ba?
It's show business, 'di ba?
It's show business.
At the end of the day, you need to get beautiful people in there.
Exactly.
Even ano yung series na yun? Betty La Fea, 'di ba? In the end, she turns out to be, with the makeover and everything, a pretty lady.
Yeah.
So it's that's a whole nother level of discrimination.
But ang maganda nga lang doon, ang maganda dito sa Juliantina and sa Together the series, these series would let go of the stereotypical gay role or stereotypical lesbian role na kailangan mask ka pag lesbian ka or kailangan effeminate ka to be gay. At least nalilet go na, at least nagmo-move forward na tayo. Nakita niyo yung progression na parang from the typical parlorista, medyo comical relief pa rin, pero at least hindi na siya yung typical parlorista, yung puro effeminate lang for you to be called gay or for you to be called lesbian. Kailangan, 'di ba, yung even the joke na kailangan naka-belt bag ka at naka-mio ka. 'Di ba? Parang at least it's beyond that eh. At least nakikita natin na parang, wow, you can be lesbian pala even if you look completely like a straight woman would. 'Di ba? Na nawala sa itsura mo,
right,
yung for you to be LGBT.
I'm still amazed at how the whole Mio thing kind of took a life on its own. It's ridiculous.
Tomboy na naka-Mio.
Right?
Oo, na naka-belt bag.
How did that even come into, like, everyone just kind of agreeing, yeah. Oo nga. It's like, what?
Ayun nga kasi stereotypical ang representation.
Very stereotypical. Yeah. I guess at the end of the day, it's about the sensitization. The more roles that are put out there, the more shows that are put out there for, there you go, there's the two of them. The more people are exposed to different situations for LGBT people, the more we move forward, the more we see the more we see different types of people that are not the same as us, as just people, at the end of the day, diba?
Yeah, I like that you mentioned that because there's this very, for me, a very important scene in Juliantina. Basically, Valentina was debating or was fighting with her sister who wasn't
Mhm.
in favor of her relationship with Juliana. So she said, "It's not as if I like women. I like one woman." And it did not matter to her. She didn't want to go into the labels of being a lesbian or being gay. She just happened to fall in love with a human being, and
With
essentially
that person, yeah.
that's exactly what all of these series are talking about. It's basically talking about love, and you can't really choose who you love. So while it's well and good to recognize these labels, because it also helps you make sense of who you are, make sense of yourself in that way. But in the at the end of it all, basically, it's one human being falling for another human being.
Correct. That is correct.
And it's about, the universality of love. Na it goes beyond your gender, it goes beyond if you're LGBT or you're straight or whatever. Pero you fell in love with that specific person, and there's nothing wrong with that.
But I mean, obviously, theoretically, we can say that, diba? And that's the way things should be. But historically, it hasn't been like that. And
Mhm.
people of non-normative situations have historically been seen as deviants,
Yeah,
as perverts, as people who don't belong in the same space as everyone else. And really, these things are very, very important to show that that shouldn't be the case anymore. We've got a long way to go. We've got a long way to go. Pero
I was ano, I
baby
was
steps, yeah.
yeah, I was watching yung scene um sa Apple TV, and they were like um uh may chronological order kung paano yung LGBT rights nag-progress sa US. And what's sad about it is, 'di ba parang sila yung poster boy ng
nah. Oh yeah.
yeah, but pero 'di ba? Pero look what's happening now, 'di ba? And I don't know. It's sad. It's sad because yung malayo na rin naman yung narating natin from the
Hmm.
Stonewall riots
Oh
to yung
yeah. Yeah.
mga LGBT rightists na lumabas do sa CBS to 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 make a point about how LGBT are represented in the media. Pero hi, what's happening to the world?
I mean, I think for one thing, what we're seeing is the commodification of LGBT stories, LGBT
Yeah.
lives, and on one hand, it's a whole nother discussion about capitalism and everything, diba? But just to be a part of that conversation, that just to be a part of the system, little by little, shows that maybe we're headed in the right direction. We're headed in a direction. I mean, time will tell if it's the right
If it's the
direction.
right one, yeah.
I mean, yeah, capitalism, that's obviously a whole nother discussion of the inequality of wealth and everything, and the uh, just the consumerism and the
Yeah.
evils of it all.
Yeah.
But the reality is that's the world that we live in right now. That's kind of how we have to navigate about the existence of each and every one of us, especially those outside of the normal, or what's perceived as normal in terms of identity and sexuality.
And it's very good that these kinds of series are now available for the younger generations to watch. So, like what I mentioned in the previous conversation, I didn't have these kinds of things growing up. parang very limited yung representations of non-heterosexual relationships. And I think that's a very real impact siguro of these kinds of series. And also I've seen a lot of tweets about BL, for example, how they kind of reminisce to their high school, diba? Parang fantasizing that this should have been my high school experience, where they kind of relived their high school, their first crush, their kilig and all of that when seeing Sarawat and Tyne on the screen. So, yung mga ganon. Kasi karamihan din ng most of the people who watch BL are not really young. Yung mga nakikita ko nagpo-post are actually middle age, diba? 30s and even the 40s, yung mga ganon. So, I think for all of the things that we mentioned earlier about how certain things can be problematic, yung paggamit ng or still adhering to certain tropes and stereotypes, pero it still has these very real effects on the audience.
Yun nga eh. What's fun about this whole idea is at least the generation now can have something to look up to rather than simply discovering it for themselves. Of course, at the end of the day, you still have to live it, diba? You still have to go through with it, with the process of it, of knowing who you are. Pero at least meron na ngayong basihan, although it may not be as perfect as we want it to be, pero at least it sends the message na you can be gay, you can be lesbian without being the stereotypical portrayal of the LGBT community. Pwede kang ma-in love sa kapwa mo lalaki, pwede kang ma-in love sa kapwa mo babae. Because it's a process. It's really getting to know who you are, and there's nothing wrong with falling in love, diba?
Love
it
at
starts
the
the
end of the day.
conversation, yeah. It starts a conversation. Like the fact that we're talking about this now and that there are other people who might be interested about this, it's already, a step forward. Okay? From all of the what happened previously, that these relationships are really kept under wraps, viewed as taboo, not really talked about, diba? In the family, diba? Okay lang bakla ka, wag ka lang magladlad, kailangan discreet ka, yung mga ganon. But that's another conversation, no? Lalo na, naisip ko lang yung mga discreet na ganyan, yung mga naghahanap lalo sa Grindr and sa Tinder. They want gay men
diba?
who are
mask.
hindi halata. Oo,
yes.
Yung lagi yung tanong, halata ka ba? Parang, okay. Pero that's for another discussion, no?
That's for
we can talk about it some other time.
Horizontal discrimination is the thing.
We can talk about dating next week.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
We can talk about it.
Dating
Who are you
apps.
willing to date?
Dating apps,
diba?
dating in general,
apps.
Dating in
anong
general.
preference mo?
Dating
kasi
is 2020.
ano siya no? Nasa ilalim kasi siya ng, preference ko kasi yan eh. Pero bakit kasi? Saan nanggagaling yung preferences mo na yan?
Yeah.
But siguro, I would like to, ako personally, I don't like the term preference. Kasi preference implies a choice. That's why ako I use sexual orientation. Kasi orientation,
right?
Siya orientation ng compass. It's not really changing. It's not something that you can, that you can change. Now, one day, I would like to date men. And then the next day, I would like to date women.
Although that by itself is
that can happen.
That can happen.
Yeah,
right?
That can happen. That's why we have a lot of letters in the diba?
In the spectrum,
nahihirapan na ako. That's why I use LGBTQ++. Kasi ang dami na talaga to kind of encapsulate all of these sexual orientations. But siguro, naalala ko lang, no, pedophilia is not a sexual orientation.
Nope, never will be. Never is.
They are, diba, they are clamoring. They have their own logo. They have their own flag. It is not an orientation because sexual orientation, ang sinasabi lang nito, who you are attracted to physically, emotionally, spiritually, or whatever, who you have this attachment towards. But it's also important to have consent. and
Correct.
children cannot give
Cannot
that
give
kind of consent.
consent.
So pedophilia, my goodness, that enrages me, yung mga
Yep.
ganyang
Yep.
posts, that it should be considered as a sexual orientation along with bestiality. Again,
Yep.
you consent. Di ba mga ganon? But yeah, sige. So next
And
week,
on that
yeah.
note, we end today's podcast.
Alright,
Great.
Did you guys enjoy this?
Yes! Medyo, naano ka na.
Yeah, we'll bring some of that
Tumaas
energy
yung
for
BP ko
next
eh.
week. Yeah. So we'll
Reserve
see.
that for next week. Yeah.
We're going to talk about dating,
We're
right?
going to talk about dating for next
Yeah.
week, and thank you for joining us today. And we'll see you next week.
Yes, and watch together the series.
Watch the series, Valentina.
Rich
Yeah.
Man's Daughter. You can find all of these things in YouTube. Okay.
All right.
Bye. Happy
See you
Sunday and
guys.
Bye.
happy
Thank you.
Father's Day
Happy
Oh,
Father's
yeah,
Day
happy
to all the
Father's
fathers,
Day.
to your
Day.
dads.
to fathers, dads, and to mothers who stood up as fathers, father figures.
Yep.
Everyone.
To
Happy
everyone.
Father's Day. This
Happy
day is for you.
Father's Day.
Bye-bye.
All right. See you guys
Bye.
next week.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.